Howdy everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It is a beautiful Friday, the 28th of February 2025, and a special shout out to Matt the Scrap Whisperer, another YouTube creator. We had kind of a thing going on about who was going to get to a Farmall H first, and Matt, I think I won. Anyway, let's get on to it. What are we going to do? Well, tell you what, I got a burr under my saddle the other day. I went by the local Case IH dealer and they had not one, not two, but 5 electric tractors sitting on their lot. Yeah, they did. So it got me to thinking, everybody, Tesla, Rivian, whoever, is electrifying their stuff. So why not do it to a Farmall H? They made a whole bunch of them, so if we screw up one, who's going to miss it? So, Farmer Dave, how do you plan on achieving this? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to pull the muffler off this tractor. We're going to pull the air cleaner off the tractor permanently. We're going to take the hood off, and then we're going to take a cutting torch, and down about here, just about level with the top of the frame rail, where I'm drawing this line here, we're going to take that torch and we're going to cut right straight across here all the way, and we're going to take out this whole engine block and head and everything right there. We're going to leave the bell housing because we've got a mount here for a starter, and I think a 48 volt golf cart powered, battery powered electric motor can be fit in there to be chain driven to the flywheel. Yeah, so we're going to leave all that right there. Now the reason why we're cutting it right here just above the frame rail here is because we have structural support on the engine housing right here to this frame rail. And not only that, the frame rail and all that will help support the weight of the batteries that we're going to put in this thing. And what we're going to do with the gas tank is cut a doorway in the side here, run a piano hinge along the top there so this flips up, and we'll put the battery charger mechanism inside of here with a couple of gauges telling how much it's charging and whatnot mounted up here on the headlight bar. Yeah. So Dave, when you get it all put together, how are you going to control the speed of the motor? Well, I saw an old boy that had a Ford Courier pickup had done this little trick. He bought a whole bunch of Motorcraft starter solenoids, and then he took a starter and rigged it up so that it only turned like maybe a quarter of a turn or so, and it was spring loaded so it would pop back. Well, what he did was he cut the wire from the bars in the commutator part of the starter so that the first 2 or 3 that had the contact with the brushes didn't have any power go through them. Yeah, he rigged it up so the power would go through that. Just low voltage power, not the big battery power. So what it was basically doing was, as he would rotate that past those first 2 or 3 that were dead and come in contact with the next one, it would send power to the starter solenoid to activate it to kick on one battery to the starter motor. And you put 5, 6, 7, 8 of those in a starter rotor deal. Yeah, by the time you get to that 8th one or 6th one or however many you do, you got all of the batteries hooked up and energizing that drive motor. Yeah, so I thought it was pretty ingenious that he used a starter to control the starter solenoids that were powering the batteries to the drive motor. Yeah, pretty slick little setup. So we're going to do that here as well. So Dave, why are you doing this? You got to be wondering what I'm thinking. Well, I tell you, I've had the generator gone through, I've replaced the wiring in this thing, I've had the starter gone through, I've put several different amp meters in it, I have bought point files and filed the points on the regulator, I've changed the regulator 6 times, never could get this thing to charge the battery. The generator was putting out power, the power was getting through the voltage regulator, but from there it just flat out disappeared somewhere. Never could figure out where it was going to. So that's why we're going to make this thing electric. Yeah, we're going to electrify the old girl. Now, before I get too far into this video, I'm going to tell you a little something about the upcoming show in May. I know you're probably getting tired of hearing about it, but I've picked up a couple of more subscribers because of this show coming up, and I'd like to give a special shout out, which is something I don't normally do, but I'd like to give a special shout out to Andy and Cece up at the local gas station, who happens to have the first flyer produced off the printing presses for our show on the 17th of May here. And a special shout out to Nastasia, the manager of that little C-store, for allowing me to have that sign hanging there in her window. Also, before we go any further, I have a quote from Dark Helmet during his infamous battle with Lone Star from the movie Spaceballs. Fooled you! Seriously, you all didn't think I was going to cut up a perfectly running Farmall H, did you, to make an electric tractor out of it? Yeah, I hope not. Anyway, let me show you what I am up to. Now, because I've always had a little bit of a problem getting the Farmall H to start, I went and did something, and I want all of you purists to know that I'm saving all of the original parts in case someday I want to put it back to its original configuration. But let me show you what's in here. Okay, so what is in here is a Delco 10SI single wire alternator. Yeah, 60 amp job, complete with a 1/2 inch wide belt pulley that's supposedly the right size for the generator on that Farmall H. And with the bracket that I got, and many of you have seen these, they are adjustable. The alternator goes on this bolt here. This is adjustable up and down for correct tension on the belt pulley and alignment and all that. Plus, these are slotted. Now, these bolts are the same ones that mount the generator to the side of the head. So we get to use those over again, and that allows forward and backwards movement. But the key difference between this one, the one for the Super H, and the M is the top bracket, tensioner bracket. Apparently, the early H's have an odd-shaped wishbone, if you will, that connects the radiator to the front of the engine, and you can't normally mount an alternator to it without making modifications to that bar. Well, this has been notched to clear that bar so that you can come up this way. That bar, and if you've worked on an H, you know what flat bar I'm talking about. That bar fits inside that notch there so that you can get the alternator up real high, so you got room under the hood for it, even though it's a bigger alternator and they make smaller ones. But that notch gets that up high enough so you can still get tension on it, use your existing belt that's attached to the generator, and that sort of thing. So we'll get this installed and make sure that I haven't been lied to, and that's how this actually works. Might be a little tough to see that in there, but I also picked up a new 12 volt 3-position light switch. Yeah, so I can have the lights work on the thing. Plus, in all of that, I also got a great big huge bag with 3 little bitty 12 volt light bulbs in there for the headlight and the tail light. So we got that covered. And I also got, and I was really kind of looking for one with the old style IH logo on it, but I got a new amp gauge that reads 60 and 60 with 0 in the middle. So we're going to install that too, as long as I don't lose all the little nuts and bolts that are floating around inside that box. Yeah. Now let's see here, what else have I got in here, if anything. That appears to be it, and yeah, here is the invoice from Brillman. I was considering buying all this stuff through Steiner so I could get some of those cowtail candies, which I so enjoy. However, I got to looking at some of the prices and decided against it. For example, Steiner's bracket, the amount the alternator to the engine with was 50 some bucks, 59 bucks, something like that. Anyway, yeah, this is $46.75, so it's a little less money. I think Steiner's was about the same price, 110 bucks or so on the alternator, but you had to buy a $23 or $24 half-inch belt pulley to put on it as an extra piece. Well, this one came with that, so that wasn't a good savings right there. In fact, that was pretty much the freight bill. 48 bucks for the light switch, $1.10 a piece for the light bulbs. I could have bought those in town at the local auto parts store, but you know, while I was ordering, I was like, what the heck? And yeah, the amp gauge, because it doesn't have IH logo or anything on it, it is only 20 bucks. So yeah, do compare with Steiner. The other one I was looking at was Yesterday Tractor. So they usually have some pretty good parts too. So shout out to them too. And maybe next go around we'll get something from them. But when you're dealing with old tractor parts, it does pay to shop around. And not necessarily the biggest name is going to have the best pricing or the best product. So do your shopping diligently and save yourself some money if you can in the long run. Well, I'm going to throw all this stuff back in the box. We're going to run all this down to the barn now and we'll install it. So hang on, you get to go along for the ride on that one as well. And I promise I haven't cut on the tractor. It's still in one piece. Yeah. Did you know that behind every angry woman out there stands a man that has absolutely no idea of what he did wrong? Yeah, none whatsoever. There's an old adage that says, leave them always wanting more. So we're going to end part 1 of this video series right now. And yeah, we're going to go to part 2 on the actual install of the alternator, the wiring of the tractor, and we're going to show how that mounting bracket works. And if it works like they advertise, I won't need to buy an extra belt, and nobody should ever have to cut another H hood to install a 10SI one-wire alternator in one of these tractors. Got to make it useful, got to have it working for the show that's coming up in May, so that's why we're doing this now. Plus, I've got to buy parts for the little Alice Chalmers B. If we get into that here in an upcoming video, it may be a while before we can get that one completely running and running right. So, got to have something going that we can use that's old at the show. Anyway, I'm Farmer Dave, wishing you all well. Don't forget, right down there, hit that big red thing that says subscribe on it if you would. I would really appreciate it. And if you kept doing that, I'd quit having to harp about it. Well, something to consider. Anyway, y'all be careful and safe out there, and we'll catch up with you next time. Bye-bye for now.